We start the news at 5 with breaking news in Phoenix, where a possible road rage shooting has sent multiple people to the hospital.
Witnesses said it looked like a case of road rage.
We've got new details tonight on a deadly road rage shooting.
Another suspected road rage shooting is under investigation right now in the valley.
What happened? Someone shooting me inside the truck. Who shot him inside that truck? Who shot my dad?
How can someone, get shot over a road rage incident? I just couldn't understand how that had happened.
This is Arizona's Family Investigates.
Tempers flare on our valley roadways as the number of road rage cases in our state continues to climb with devastating consequences. Thanks so much for joining us for this Arizona's Family Investigates special. I'm Nicole Kreitz, joined by investigative reporter Amy Cutler. This is something that you've been following for a while now.
Yeah, Arizona's Family Investigates has been looking into this concerning trend as part of our series on dangerous driving, what's fueling this, and why state law makes it harder to hold some of these drivers accountable. The cell phone video is hard to watch. Stephen Bevan's young son holding the phone, recording. You see Stephen abruptly stop the car, get out, and yell. What? Seconds later, you see a truck door swing open and hear the gunshot. Stephen manages to walk back to his car, collapsing right next to the passenger window, in full view of his two sons who are in the back seat. Dad! The boy drops the phone, appearing to try to get out of the car, both of them frantically trying to get to their dad.
What happened? Someone shooting me inside the truck.
A bystander then ushers the boys back into the car.
Who shot him inside that truck? Who shot my dad?
It happened on a Tuesday afternoon in Tempe, near Priest and Warner Road back in July. Stephen died at the hospital. Police say the other driver also had his young daughter in the truck.
I honestly couldn't believe it.
Annabelle Bevan is Stephen's mother.
How can someone, get shot over a road rage incident? I just couldn't understand how that had happened.
It's a good question, one we wanted to investigate.
We start the news at 5 with breaking news in Phoenix, where a possible road rage shooting has sent multiple people to the hospital.
Witnesses said it looked like a case of road rage.
We've got new details tonight on a deadly road rage shooting.
Another suspected road rage shooting is under investigation right now in the valley.
First, a look at the numbers. According to the state, between 2020 and 2024, the number of road rage crashes has doubled from about 500 per year to more than 1,000. The number of people killed has also doubled, from 3 to 6 per year.
What do you think is leading to that?
I think there are several factors leading to this. One is people are very impatient. Speeding has a lot to do with it, and also the lack of law enforcement presence doing traffic safety issues.
Jesse Torres is the director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. He points out that Phoenix PD's traffic unit used to have 200 officers. That's down now to about 30.
All over the state, traffic enforcement has decreased in its priority with agencies.
Do you think that sends a message to drivers that it's okay to engage in behavior like this?
I think it sends a message that their chances of a consequence to either a poor decision, whether it be DUI, whether it be speeding, anything, is just it's not in their mind anymore.
In reviewing these cases, there was one common thread: how quickly things escalate.
No one said anything to nobody. We was in our neighborhood. And
Darquintium Brown says he didn't even know he upset another driver until it was too late.
He decided to pull up to my curb, and I get out my car, he starts shooting. And when I dive, he shoots me right here, and he shoots through the car and kills our daughter.
Brown was unarmed with his wife and two daughters in the driveway of their South Phoenix home. 6 years has passed since the shooting that took their daughter, Summerbell's, life.
artistic, funny. She was amazing. She was only 10. It's a pain I do not wish on, not even my enemies.
The driver, who police say opened fire, Joshua Gonzalez, is charged with murder and aggravated assault. Summerbell's mother, Tanisha, says she routinely sees drivers lose their cool.
Like, I've had to honk at people and be like, it's not worth it. Like, you know, telling people it's not worth it. Like, just let it go.
But in Stephen's case, justice is more complicated. Tempe police noted in their report that Stephen was 5'7", 190 pounds. The other driver, 6'8", 300 pounds. Yet that driver called the shooting self-defense.
Does being in the vehicle change anything?
Well, I certainly, as a prosecutor, I would argue that gives you a lot of options short of shooting somebody.
Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell says Arizona's law on self-defense is tough.
If the defense raises the issue of self-defense, the burden is on us then to rebut that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Her office pursued charges against the driver who shot and killed Stephen, but a grand jury declined to indict him. Arizona's Family Investigates getting a look at never-before-seen video leading up to that deadly shooting. A camera on a Valley Metro bus showing Stephen's car swerve out of the lane, only to later cut off the other driver.
I think those videos may have had an impact because they showed just how the shooting victim was engaging.
Do you think that sends the message that, these cases aren't worth pursuing?
I think in that one specific case, they decided not to indict. We're taking this seriously. The public needs to take this seriously as well.
Stephen's mom sees it differently.
That sends a message that anybody could, because they have a gun, that they could shoot somebody and say that they fear for their life, and it's going to be okay.
Had you ever seen your son be an aggressive driver before?
No, I hadn't. I know that my son made a mistake, that he should not have got out of the car, that he should not have been involved in that, but that did not give him the right to shoot him.
Now, we reached out to the driver who shot and killed Stephen. He did not get back to us. Annabelle and the Browns both agreed to speak with us in the hopes that sharing their stories will prevent another road rage incident. They urge drivers to take a deep breath and think about the consequences of their actions if they get into a situation like this.
We keep hearing about case after case like this. What are you supposed to do if someone's, speeding up, engaging you, you're on the road, you get caught in a situation like this? What should you do?
Yeah, and it happens more often. I spoke with several police agencies about this, and they say the important point is not to engage. We're tempted in those moments when tempers fly to engage, to maybe try to cut someone off. You're not supposed to do that. Just take a deep breath. Do not engage, maybe pull over to the right, let the person go around you, and just try to avoid the situation as much as you can.
And for the Brown family, they lost their little girl, Summerbell. They had no idea that they had enraged another driver on the road. You don't even know. You're just going about your day and your business, maybe talking with your family in the car, and then somebody approached them and they had no idea that it was happening. But this isn't just an Arizona problem. You're seeing this nationwide.
Exactly right. When I spoke with the governor's office of highway safety, they pointed out that this is a nationwide problem, and they really attribute it to the fact that there is just this major officer shortage nationwide across agencies. And so there's less traffic enforcement, less officers on the road, leads to speeding, which leads to, they believe, more of these road rage incidents.
Speaking of speeding, if you've driven on the freeway, any of you, you've seen this. Going the speed limit is like not an option. Going 10 over, some people are passing you going 30 over and plus. So how does speeding amplify this issue?
Well, they say people are, they're moving at higher speeds, right? And people then will try to move over and not realize. It leads to sort of more frustration. They say it's also complicated because there are more people, during rush hour hours, there's more traffic on the roads, and so people get frustrated. People are sort of worked up. They've got a lot of stress going on, and all of this just ends up resulting in more of these road rage incidents.
But it's wild to think when we're dealing with double the number of cases, double the number of fatalities, and hopefully the more that we talk about it, the more it will get people saying, like, I'm not going to engage. But it seems like it's second nature, but sadly it doesn't appear to be.
I know, I think it's easy in the situation to say, you know, I'm not going to let this get to me, but I think it's, you know, we've all been in those situations where, you know, somebody cuts in front of you and you get frustrated, but, you know, following someone or getting out of your car, that situation is sort of surprising to me. I can understand getting frustrated if somebody cuts you off, and maybe even to honk at them, but to get out of your car, that really sort of escalates things, takes it to a whole other level.
With the kids in the car and just to hear the recording of those little boys' voices, I think this drives home, and hopefully for a lot of people it does drive it home for them, that there is nothing that is worth it for a situation like this. But we're going to talk about, coming up in just a little bit, about getting out of the car, staying, you know, non-engaging, disengaging, things like that. But one recent road rage case played out in broad daylight. Doesn't matter the time of day. This was an otherwise quiet Saturday afternoon. One of our Arizona's Family anchors was on scene moments after it happened. Keep it right here. She's joining us next.
This is Arizona's Family Investigates.
They were basically trying to get in each other's lanes, following each other really close. He spit on her and she shot him.
It was just a gruesome sight. I mean, it was a shot to the neck and it's terrible. Blood all over the place. It was terrifying. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. She said, I shot him. I'm sorry. He ran up to my car. I was scared. He got in my face and shot him.
Just like that, a tragic ending after a road rage encounter between two drivers on a valley roadway. It happened in broad daylight on a Saturday afternoon in September and ended with one man losing his life.
We want to bring in Arizona's Family anchor, Karina Rubio. Karina, you were actually in the area when it happened. What did you see?
This was right at 7th and Missouri, right by our news station, and got to work a few minutes early, so I stopped at the Starbucks there and was driving to the window. That's when I heard a loud popping sound, and I thought, sounds like a motorcycle engine. Then I got to the window. The barista told me they were closed, and I drove around. And right when I drove around and parked to see what was happening was when the man was kind of walking back to his car, collapsing, and then you just start to see a lot of blood on the ground. In a nearby restaurant, a woman yelled saying, "I'm a nurse," and everyone jumped into action and started giving that man CPR, but it wasn't apparent at first that this was a case of road rage because you just didn't see the other driver. And it was a young woman, maybe early 20s, and an older man. And then once I saw that young woman, she was just kind of sitting in her car, hands on the steering wheel. And then once police got there, she was very compliant and just let officers arrest her.
At what point did you realize that it was a road rage incident?
Once I saw that there was a young woman sitting in the car, looked kind of emotionless and just waiting for police to show up. And once I kind of saw the shattered glass and the amount of blood that was on the floor, that's when it kind of started turning in my head that this was likely a road rage shooting based on that popping sound that I had first heard. And then what confirmed that was I saw a distraught young woman, and she was that sound that we just heard from, saying that these drivers were cutting each other off. She had blood on her sleeves. She was trying to help that man. She said she was behind them for blocks, and she was trying to keep her space and distance from them because they were just cutting each other off left and right. And right when they got to that red light at the intersection is when she told me the man got out of his car and approached that young woman driver who was in front of him.
I can't imagine the emotion of that witness who saw it play out in front of her eyes. And I mean, she could have been shot in the crossfire, something along those lines. How was her emotion? Because it escalated so quickly. It went from cutting people off in traffic to someone dead on the pavement.
I mean, that's the number one reason why she didn't want to go on camera when I asked to speak to her. First and foremost, I asked her, "Are you okay?" Because there was evidence, there was blood on her, and she was so close to that scene, and her voice was shaky, and she just kept saying that, "I can't believe that I witnessed this. I can't believe I saw someone get shot and killed right in front of me because of driving."
It was sort of surprising to me, though, the driver who shot this other driver didn't even get out of her car. That sort of seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, and that was one thing that seemed strange to me when I was looking at the woman who was arrested for shooting the man. Like I said, she was just kind of emotionless there in the car and was just waiting there for the officers to get there. And as you heard, she had told somebody at the scene there, another witness, she just said, yes, I shot him and I was scared. So it kind of seemed like she knew what she had done, and her claim was that she was just in fear for her safety. And that witness had told me again, she thinks because it was a young girl, maybe early 20s, and a much older man, and she was alone in that vehicle from what I saw.
Yeah, and so the allegation is that he spit at her and she felt threatened that, you know, something was going to escalate further.
Exactly. The witness, once I was talking to her, told me she was right behind them. Her window might have been partially open or cracked, and it was through that partially open window that he spit at her, and she said she saw that happen.
Any idea of how they ended up stopping? Like, so was it a red light that they had come to a stop at?
Yes, she said it was just blocks of them cutting each other off, and then that red light is when tensions escalated. I believe the witness told me she saw the young woman cut that driver off right at that red light to get in front of him, to be the first in line there at that red light, and that's when she thought that maybe tensions flared for that man. He got angry, and that's when he approached her and got out of his car.
So at this point, it sounds like Phoenix police have submitted the case to the county attorney's office. Do we know what their decision is going to be moving forward with charges here?
You know, that was one of my questions to officers on scene, and they said it's too early to tell. We don't know if maybe this man said anything verbally to issue another threat on top of the claim of him spitting on her. And they said what it was going to take was just surveillance video from the nearby businesses. But as far as what I've heard, I haven't heard any update as far as what's going to happen with potential charges.
And I did reach out to the county attorney's office. They said that they have that Phoenix police submitted the case. Okay. They're reviewing things, but they have not made a decision on whether they would pursue charges in the case.
It's just so wild because you never know, and we're in the state of Arizona, who has a gun in their vehicle. You don't know what the situation's going to be. So, you know, we have seen case after case of road rage, drivers claiming they pulled their gun and they fired off a shot because they were fearing for their life. Does that self-defense argument hold up? We're going to investigate that angle straight ahead.
This is Arizona's Family Investigates.
Welcome back. In many of these road rage cases, we see drivers who claim self-defense after they've pulled a gun and shot and killed someone. Now, Amy, you asked the county attorney about this specifically.
I did, because we wanted to get some more information about how these cases are processed, how state law works in all of this. Take a listen to what she had to say.
A lot of times in road rage cases, you see two individuals who are kind of going back and forth. And under Arizona law, we have a very strong self-defense aspect to it. So if the defense raises the issue of self-defense, the burden is on us then to rebut that beyond a reasonable doubt. And so when you have two people kind of going back and forth in the car or through gestures or verbiage, that's kind of difficult sometimes when you have two people that are really not behaving as they should.
We had two instances recently where the driver who shot the other driver didn't even get out of the vehicle, but had claimed self-defense. Does being in the vehicle change anything?
Well, I certainly, as a prosecutor, I would argue that gives you a lot of options, short of shooting somebody, including just driving off, or if the other person is not armed, locking your door, rolling up the window.
So that was Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. And of course, we wanted to bring in the perspective from a defense attorney here in the Valley.
Yeah, Dwayne Cage joins us. You're not associated with either of these cases, but we wanted to get perspective from you. Obviously, we heard the county attorney talk about some of the challenges associated with self-defense. When you're handling cases like this, what's your view on things?
Well, and I've handled quite a few of these kind of cases. And the way it works is the person has to fear for their life, but it has to be from a reasonable person standpoint. So it's a reasonable person in that situation. Would they have feared for their life, and would they feel like they needed to use their weapon to save their life? And that's how you get self-defense. And so it's kind of strange because you got to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's in the car being approached by somebody. And would a reasonable person in that situation feel like they needed to use deadly force to protect themselves?
Reasonable case is very difficult for someone out on the street to put themselves in that position. In the Tempe case, for instance, you're talking about two men who both had young children in their car. So me as a mom, I would never put myself in that position. So how do you even begin to argue a case like that legally as a threshold when you're saying most reasonable people would not engage if they have kids in the car?
Well, but it's not the overall reasonableness. It's the person sitting in the car when the guy's walking back to him. Would a reasonable person feel like that person was a threat? And that's probably why the grand jury didn't indict, because the person was coming at him and came to his door. Okay, and then he shot him in the door. Now that's a real borderline case. Yeah. That case could have gone either way. But the guy that's sitting in his car, he's not the aggressor at that point. The guy that cut him off, pulled in front of him, and charged back to the car was being the aggressor. And I believe that's probably why the grand jury didn't indict him.
Tell me though about the escalation in the force though, because we know that the driver who got out of the car, who approached the other driver, was not armed. And he was coming up to the car, yes, but again, no weapon. It just seems sort of strange to me, the proportionality of it, I guess.
Well, do you know for sure that the driver in the truck that shot, he had no idea whether he had a gun or not? He wasn't walking up, holding his jacket open, going, "Hey, I'm not armed." I mean, he's charging at the car. He could have a lot of people carry guns in their waistband in the back. I mean, he could have been armed. He could have had a club. He could have had a lot of things when he's walking back there. I mean, you got to understand, this is split-second stuff. This isn't happening, slow motion and where you have time to evaluate. I mean, it's coming, and you got to make a split-second decision.
In the story Amy put together, it talked about, when we say proportionality, also the size of the driver who had the gun. He outweighed him, almost double his weight. He was a trained fighter. They also found cocaine in his vehicle, and I think that's the only charge, Amy, right, that's sticking at this point. They're not going to pursue the road rage, but they are pursuing his drug charges.
Yes.
Well, his size makes no difference because he's sitting in his car. Okay, he's sitting in his car. He's not charging the other guy. He's not getting out, wanting to fight. Okay, he's sitting in his car. The other guy's coming at him. The guy that's coming at him has no idea how big the guy is. He probably wouldn't have got out of his car and charged back there if he'd have known the guy was the size he was. Okay, so now if the two people are standing up and the big guy's coming at the little guy, then the little guy may be able to use force to defend himself. But in this case, it has no relevance whatsoever.
We've talked before about like stand your ground laws, right? And that kind of that plays into it in a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You have no obligation to retreat. Mm-hmm. Now, in a lot of circumstances, it's probably a good idea. But had the guy just shut his door and rolled his window up,
driven off.
Yes, that was my
drive away.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is, he doesn't. If the guy's got a gun and he's charging back there, and he shuts his door, and so the guy reaches in his back, pulls the gun, and shoots him. There's an old saying in self-defense: it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Tell me, is Arizona's self-defense law one of the more liberal self-defense laws in the country? Because I know in Florida, there's also the stand your ground law that's in place as well.
It's similar to Florida. There are quite a few southern states that have that. And in Arizona, if you're out there driving on the streets, assume that everybody's got a gun in their car. And you'll be right a lot of the time.
The Phoenix case, when we talk about that, again, the driver who came at her, spit at her, also didn't have a gun. So this is, again, kind of the threshold that we need to be keeping in mind.
Yeah, and again, it's about who's the aggressor. Okay, he was coming back at her, and actually spitting on somebody is a form of assault. You can be charged for assault for spitting on somebody. You can get charged with aggravated assault if you spit on somebody and you have a disease. So she doesn't know what's happening at that point in time. The guy's coming back at her car. She doesn't know. Everybody says, well, he didn't have a gun. Well, that's easy to tell in hindsight after it's all over and somebody searches him. But in the split moment where the guy's charging back at her car, she doesn't know if he's got a gun or not.
In that case, is your car treated sort of like your home? If you have somebody who's breaking into your home, I mean, no one's opening a car door in these case samples that we've investigated here, but is your vehicle kind of considered the same protective space if someone is approaching you in an aggressive manner?
It kind of is. It's not quite the same as your house, but again, this is your safe space where, you know, this is your space, and you're not. And again, this has to do with who's being aggressive, okay? The person that's being aggressive that gets shot, there's a good self-defense case because the person is being aggressive. You know, the person didn't have to go back to her car. And when he spit on her, I tell my wife, if somebody charges back to the car and spits on her, shoot them.
What about the rendering aid part of things? What about, does the driver who shot the other driver required to get out of their car and to render aid at all? I mean, you've just injured someone. Shouldn't you be trying to help them? I guess that was something that stood out to me in some of these videos that we've seen.
Not really. I mean, again, if you're justified in shooting somebody, when you pull your weapon and you're trained in CCW classes and you pull your weapon in self-defense, your sole goal is to eliminate the threat, okay? And just because you shoot somebody and they walk a ways and they fall down, that doesn't mean, you still don't know if that person has a gun. You know, you don't have an obligation to walk up to that person because again, if somebody's just wounded and they've got a gun, they're likely going to start shooting at you. So the best thing to do is stay in your vehicle and call 911. The best thing to do is when you're in a road rage incident, before anybody stops, call 911. Get 911 on the phone and tell them what's going on, because then everything that happens will be recorded. Okay?
And they can de-escalate the situation as well, like pull off on the next exit,
right.
Get to a safe spot, you know, and they can kind of walk you through calming you down, because tensions do flare. It's a normal human reaction to, you know, respond almost. So these two case studies were very similar in that you had the shooter staying in their vehicle. I imagine it's far more difficult to figure out what to do legally when both drivers have exited their vehicle and they may be, you know, in a confrontation on the street.
Yeah, and then the size of the people have some bearing at that point, whether somebody's got a club or a tire iron or any kind of weapon, okay? And you mentioned proportionality, and it's a big part of self-defense. You know, it's sometimes hard to defend somebody with self-defense if they shoot somebody that's unarmed when they're in like in a fist fight and they're, you know, going back and forth, somebody pulls out a gun. It's hard to do that without a weapon, because you're supposed to, deadly physical force is only supposed to be used to prevent deadly physical force. Right. And so there is some obligation to determine whether or not that the attacker is using deadly physical force.
It's wild. Wow. That's why we're talking about it, because it's sadly double the cases in the last 4 years, double the fatalities. Something's got to change, so we got to make a difference here.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the policing thing is a big thing, because you know, we added 500,000, 750,000 people to Arizona and cut the number of cops to nothing. The defund the police thing didn't work.
Clearly.
Right, yeah. And the officer shortage plays a role, because you have fewer traffic police, there's less enforcement.
Well, it's the Wild West out there on the freeways. I mean, you know, if you're not driving 85, you know, people are honking at you and pissed off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
It gets aggressive out there for sure.
Yeah.
Dwayne, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have a tip for the Arizona's Family Investigates team, let us know. Scan the QR code on your screen or email us at investigates@arizonafamily.com and send us your tip directly to us.
It's really helpful to have these bigger conversations, of course. Dwayne, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I'm Nicole Kreitz with Amy Cutler, and thanks so much for joining us for this Arizona's Family Investigates special.
To keep watching Arizona's Family, download our free streaming app, AZF Plus. Get unique local content, breaking news, and first alert weather anytime.